The Galactic Council's flagship hovered in low orbit above Earth like a cosmic cathedral, its golden hull glinting in the sun. A marvel of engineering, it housed the minds and muscles of over 70 worlds. But today, its halls echoed with a strange, uneasy silence. Admiral Craxon adjusted his ceremonial cape and stared at the holographic transmission hovering before him. "Containment successful," he declared to the gathered dignitaries, gesturing with a flared appendage. 42 human females retrieved for analysis. No casualties. Minimal resistance. There was a smattering of polite applause. A few clicks of mandibles and ripples of bioluminescence signaled approval across the chamber. The Admiral turned smug, already picturing the commendations he would receive for decisively managing the erratic primitives of Earth. Then the feed blinked. A human face appeared. Pale, middle-aged, weathered but smiling, like a man who knew the punchline to a joke no one else had heard yet. He wore an olive-drab uniform with crisp American flags on the sleeves, and a cowboy hat tipped back on his head. His eyes sparkled with a kind of terrifying hospitality. "Well, howdy, y'all." Every alien in the chamber froze. Admiral Craxon's frills stiffened. He straightened. "This is a restricted diplomatic channel." "Oh, sorry about that. Name's General Nathan Briggs. Earth Defense Council. Heard y'all were having a little get-together without us. Thought I'd drop by and say howdy." Craxon narrowed his eyes, or at least the vertical slits that passed for them. "General Briggs, you are interrupting official council proceedings." "Well, Admiral K something or other, I'll keep it brief." Briggs leaned into the feed, the camera adjusting slightly to follow his motion. "I heard y'all picked up some of our girls. 42, right? Nurses, teachers, couple software engineers, one former rodeo queen if I'm not mistaken." "Yes," Craxon said slowly. "They were collected for study. Their behavior is erratic, their social structures illogical. They will be unharmed, of course." Briggs chuckled. "Oh, I'm not worried about them. I'm worried about you." A ripple of confusion passed through the chamber. One of the younger delegates, a spindly Kalari diplomat, whispered, "Did he just threaten the Galactic Empire?" Briggs' smile widened, but his eyes darkened just enough to register the shift in atmosphere. "See, you boys done goofed. You didn't just snatch civilians. You took human women. Now I know y'all don't quite get us yet, so let me spell it out in simple words." He paused, letting the silence thicken like molasses. "You just signed your death warrant." There it was. The words hung in the air like smoke after a shot's been fired. Briggs leaned back, folding his arms. The transmission flickered slightly, just enough to remind everyone it wasn't pre-recorded. Admiral Craxon let out a derisive snort, the sound amplified through the chamber. "Are you threatening us with war over a few females?" Briggs tilted his head. "Not war, Admiral. Retribution. War implies y'all got a fair chance." Somewhere behind Craxon, an aide turned slightly pale. YRR Tak, the ancient, shelled elder of the Mossari species, whispered something in a forgotten language. The recording or translator didn't catch it, but the sudden silence around him suggested it didn't need translation. Craxon waved a hand, trying to dismiss the tension. "Earth is a new member of the galactic community. Your threats are primitive. Emotional. You misunderstand how we operate." "Maybe," Briggs allowed, tugging his hat slightly forward. "But here's the thing. We humans? We're real good at misunderstandings. Started thousands of wars over 'em. Got real creative with revenge, too. You'd be amazed what a grieving mama can do with a pressure cooker and some chewing gum." A low, nervous whistle echoed from the far side of the hall. "We do not respond to intimidation," Craxon said, too quickly. "Your species is unpredictable, yes. But you lack cohesion, military parity, or cultural longevity. You are, in essence, loud children with sharp sticks." Briggs just grinned. "And you just gave one of those kids a reason to sharpen it." A second voice chimed in from behind the dais, Counselor Schunvelk, the anxious insectoid delegate from the Grusari cluster. Perhaps we should reconsider the terms of containment," he said, his mandibles twitching. "There may have been a misjudgment." "Nonsense," snapped Craxon. "We've captured primitives before. We've broken rebellions." "But none of them were human," muttered YRR Tack, finally speaking in the common tongue. His voice was gravel and time. "You captured the wives of soldiers, sisters of hunters, daughters of engineers. You cannot imagine what fury that awakens." Briggs inclined his head respectfully. "Appreciate the wisdom, Mr. YRR Tack. You've read your history. More than I can say for your squid buddy here." Craxon slammed a tendril on the console. "Enough. Your posturing ends now. Your fleet is minuscule. Your weapons outdated. Your planet unshielded." Briggs lifted a cup of coffee, took a slow sip, and let the silence simmer. "Funny thing, Admiral. We're not broadcasting from Earth. We ain't even on the same side of the system as Earth right now." There was a flicker on the Council's strategic maps. A glitch. Then another. Multiple sectors went dark in real time. Craxon blinked. "What?" "See, while you were busy playing intergalactic taxman, we were cleaning up our little blue marble. Consolidating. Upgrading. Disappearing, as you might say." More sectors went dark. Power surges blinked through the flagship's auxiliary systems. Communications traffic suddenly spiked. Alerts, scrambled signals, blocked channels. "We call it Operation Smokehouse," Briggs continued, casually. "Named it after the best brisket joint in Austin. Hell of a place. Used to eat there before briefings." "What did you do?" Schunvelk's voice quivered. "Oh, just turn off a few lights. Shut down some satellites. Took a joyride through your back corridors." Briggs shrugged. "One of our girls is a systems analyst. Left her purse in your data center. You might want to check on that." Craxon turned to his aide. "Check all systems. Seal off." The chamber lights dimmed. One by one, terminals flickered and died. Holograms dissolved. Emergency protocols stuttered into place, far too late. The chamber descended into darkness lit only by Briggs' transmission. "That's the thing, Admiral. You thought you took 42 helpless civilians." He leaned closer, voice dropping to a whisper. "You took bait." A scream rang out somewhere deep in the ship, metallic, electronic. A power node failing. Schunvelk's antennae drooped. "They planned this." "You're damn right we did," Briggs said, voice low and level now. "We've been planning since the first probe landed in Kansas and got abducted by a farmer with a shotgun. Y'all thought we were just disorganized monkeys. But you missed the big picture." He stood slowly, camera panning to reveal the background, military staff rushing behind him, screens showing fleet movements, drone feeds, and one screen locked onto the alien lab where the women were held. One of them, smiling, held up a note to the camera. "Showtime." Briggs gave a final nod. "Retribution's comin'. And we'll do it with the same smile you see right here. Because humans don't go to war like y'all do." He leaned in once more, smile back in place. "We go to war like it's family business." The screen went black. No one spoke. Craxon swallowed hard, tentacles twitching. YRR Tack whispered again, just loud enough for others to hear. "First they smile. Then they erase you." Outside the flagship's grand viewports, the planet Earth spun in serene silence, a blue and green jewel. But somewhere in the shadows of space, something was moving. And it was human. In the sterile halls of the Imperial Research Command vessel Ossuary Prime, 42 human women were held under high surveillance, each within their own climate-regulated, nutrient-supplied observation chamber. Designed for maximum comfort and minimum threat exposure, the chambers resembled spa retreats, if spas had biometric locks and surveillance drones that never blinked. The captives, however, behaved in ways that perplexed every alien scientist aboard. Dr. Vixlin, a lean lime-colored Zarken biologist with 6 fingers and a self-important demeanor, hovered before Observation Pod 17. Inside, a human woman named Madison lounged in what appeared to be yoga pants and a band tee that read "I paused my game for this." She was sipping what the aliens had begrudgingly synthesized as coffee, though she declared it tasted like melted crayons. We expected panic, Vixlin muttered, scanning his notes. Isolation should trigger psychological breakdown within 72 cycles. Instead, Madison gave a lazy wave and tapped the glass. Hey, document. Can I get more oat milk? That last batch was war crime adjacent. Vixlin stared blankly. Oat? What? Never mind. Just make it creamy and stop calling it nutrient sludge. Makes it hard to believe you passed biology. Across the vessel, similar scenes unfolded. In Pod 09, a woman named Priya had taught her Xanthorian observer how to play poker. He was losing badly. She had already won his access badge, 3 data crystals, and what looked suspiciously like a ship override token. In Pod 03, Lisa, a petite redhead with an Olympic-level resting smirk, had convinced her guards to let her demonstrate a traditional Earth dance for cultural data. 2 minutes in, she'd used the dance to map out the sensor blind spots and mark key structural weak points using glitter she claimed was an essential Earth grooming compound. Back on the bridge of Ossuary Prime, Admiral Craxon was far less amused. Reports from Earth had grown disturbingly quiet. Surveillance probes sent back static. Relay stations went offline. And now the humans were acting too calm. Suspiciously calm. Dangerously calm. Have the women been interrogated? He demanded, his voice sharper now, tinged with unease. Vixlin appeared via holofeed. Sir, we've attempted all standard techniques. They remain uncooperative. Uncooperative how? They mock us, sir. Craxon blinked. Mock you? Openly. Sarcastically. One of them ranked my intellect between that of a sea sponge and a broken toaster. Craxon hissed. Then isolate them further. Increase psychological pressure. Vixlin hesitated. Sir, respectfully, I believe we're misunderstanding the threat profile. Their demeanor is not that of captives. It's something else. A performance, perhaps. Craxon growled, frustrated. They are unarmed, untrained civilians. Vixlin cleared his throat. Sir, 3 of them have demonstrated extensive military knowledge. One of them rewired her chamber's interface using scrap from her bedding. Craxon cut the feed. In his private chamber, he activated a restricted channel and called the council. Schunvelk appeared first, antennae trembling. YRR-TAC followed, silent but watching. They're up to something, Craxon said. YRR-TAC's shell emitted a low resonance. Of course they are. I want to interrogate them using psionic resonance, extract their intentions directly. Schunvelk clicked nervously. That would be a violation of protocol, and potentially provoke further hostility. Craxon snarled. They've already declared war. YRR-TAC spoke quietly. No. They declared consequences. You are the one who keeps mistaking those for the same thing. Meanwhile, deep in the restricted hangar bay of Ossuary Prime, maintenance drones buzzed like flies around a corpse. One stopped, blinked red, then blue, then began emitting a soft melody. Sweet Home Alabama. The few engineers nearby looked confused. No one noticed the hidden relay node reactivating. No one saw the encrypted pulse that shot through the sublight comm array and vanished into deep space. Back in Pod 17, Madison smiled. That same hour, in a nameless pocket of the Kuiper Belt, Earth's stealth fleet began to stir. Vessels shaped like jagged blades unfolded from space itself, their quantum slip matrices uncoiling silently. Painted matte black, radar-absorbent, and lined with tech most of the galaxy didn't even believe existed, the Phantom Corps began their approach. General Briggs stood aboard the command ship Gravedigger, arms behind his back. The crew bustled around him, stoic, efficient, silent. Each wore a patch stitched with a chess piece, the Queen. He nodded once. Begin blackout. Across dozens of worlds, humans disappeared from view. Diplomatic stations powered down. Listening posts vanished from orbit. Earth itself went radio silent. A wall of quiet aggression. Back on Ossuary Prime, Craxon grew desperate. System pings failed. Navigation relays blinked erratically. The Imperial flagship no longer had a functioning star map. Earth's location was simply gone. Someone's jamming us, his chief of operations reported. But the signal's internal. Craxton froze. Internal? Security rushed to the prisoner wing, only to find that the doors had opened themselves. Every camera looped old footage. The women were gone. Except they weren't. They were already moving. Madison led the charge, clad now in stolen armor, and grinning like a barista with a secret. Lisa flanked her, armed with a shock baton and chewing gum like she'd been born for war. Priya trailed them with a satchel of alien tech and a crowbar she'd labeled diplomacy. They moved through the halls like ink and water, silent, disruptive, unstoppable. Got access to the mainframe, Priya said, tossing a cracked security pad to Madison. They left the admin password as 1234. I want you to sit with that for a minute. Explains a lot, Madison replied. One squad of guards intercepted them. The women didn't pause. 3 seconds later, the corridor was quiet again, save for the sound of Lisa humming the theme to Jeopardy as she picked a blaster from the floor. On the bridge, Craxton watched the status panels begin to flicker and die. Control was slipping from his tentacled grasp. Find them, he roared. Eliminate them. No need, said a new voice. Briggs. He appeared without fanfare, the hologram flickering to life directly in front of Craxton, now seated in the Admiral's command chair aboard Gravedigger. You. Me. Briggs grinned, adjusting his cuffs. Just checking in. Saying hi before things get spicy. You lied. You said Earth had no jump-capable fleets. No, Briggs replied. I said Earth wasn't broadcasting. Didn't say anything about where we parked the toys. Craxton's breathing accelerated. This is an act of war. Nah, Briggs said, smile never touching his eyes. This is an act of math. Y'all grabbed 42 American women. The math was always gonna do what it does. On cue, a klaxon blared. One of the fleet officers on Ossuary Prime gasped. Sir, we have breach signals. Multiple boarding pods, inside the hull. They bypassed our shields. They were already here, another said, horror-struck. They've been here. The prisoners were just the first wave. Briggs raised a cup. Cheers. Explosions rocked the ship. Shockwaves knocked several guards off their feet. Reinforced bulkheads groaned. Light panels flickered. In the chaos, Schunvelk's voice came through on emergency channel, his usually composed tone verging on panic. Briggs. We can fix this. There must be a resolution, some diplomatic path. Oh, I reckon there is, Briggs said. But it don't come from talkin'. Comes from understanding. You took our people. You thought they were weak. But all you did was give them a ride closer to your front door. Please, General, what do you want? Briggs leaned forward. I want you to remember something, Counselor. We're not conquerors. We're settlers. Explorers. But we're also something else. The lights dimmed completely. Then the emergency backup screens lit up. Footage began to play. Slow-motion captures of the women taking control of the Ossuary Prime, disabling sections, disabling systems, setting charges. Lisa grinned at the camera as she stuck a sticky note on the wall that read, Told ya. Madison's voice rang out from the intercom. Attention Empire personnel. You have 30 minutes to surrender or evacuate. If you're in the cafeteria, try the shrimp, it's delicious. Craxton collapsed back into his command chair, a haunted look spreading across his face. You don't win this way, he whispered. Briggs gave him a sad, almost sympathetic nod. You're right. We don't win. We end. The hologram vanished. Craxton stared at the empty air, the sounds of his flagship tearing itself apart all around him. They weren't fighting humans. They were fighting the consequences of underestimating them. And the humans were only just getting started. The Ossuary Prime groaned under the strain of sabotage, betrayal, and unanticipated warfare. Its hull, once polished and impenetrable, now trembled as Earth's boarding parties swarmed through its arteries like ants through a corpse. Lights flickered, ventilation systems screamed, and once proud command decks became battlegrounds soaked in the humiliation of the Empire. General Briggs stood at the forward observation window of the Gravedigger, sipping his coffee as he watched his plan unfold. His eyes tracked the distant silhouette of Ossuary Prime, a once majestic flagship now visibly venting gas and atmosphere, its starboard side sagging from the damage inflicted from within. Each burst of plasma, each sudden detonation, confirmed what he already knew. The Galactic Empire hadn't just underestimated Earth. They'd misread the entire species. Behind him, Colonel Mares tapped through the tactical interface, lips pursed in focus. 34 enemy vessels en route to reinforce Ossuary Prime. They'll be here in 8 minutes. Want me to intercept? No, Briggs said, his voice steady and calm. Let him come. Give him front row seats to the barbecue. Understood. Across the crippled Imperial vessel, chaos ruled. Madison led her strike team through Corridor V7, their stolen weapons modified with human ingenuity, and just enough duct tape to insult the manufacturer. Her team moved with precision, ex-military, ex-intelligence, ex-you wouldn't believe what they used to do. No longer posing as hostages, they now embodied every nightmare the Empire hadn't yet catalogued. They stormed the central security hub with practiced brutality. Priya disabled the mainframe with an interface override, coded into a children's educational tablet she'd jury-rigged. The irony stung worse than the stun grenades. This wasn't a rescue, Priya said, working quickly. It was an extraction. Every second we were in here, we were mapping the entire vessel. Madison nodded, dropping another Imperial officer with a well-placed elbow to the throat. And now it's time to gut the fish. On the lower decks, Lisa and her team had cornered a detachment of elite guards. The alien soldiers, covered in advanced armor and clutching plasma rifles, looked confident for precisely 2 seconds. Then Lisa tossed a soda can down the corridor. The soda can beeped. Instincts took over. The guards scattered, panicked. Nothing happened. Then everything did. The ceiling collapsed as the can's signal triggered a cascade of magnetized breaching drones. The room filled with smoke and chaos. Lisa walked through it like a ghost in a hoodie, swinging a shock baton and delivering one-liners that nobody understood but everyone feared. You know, for an elite species, y'all sure panic like interns on deadline. Up on the bridge of Ossuary Prime, Admiral Craxon's composure had shattered. The air was thick with heat, smoke, and the stink of a cornered regime. Screens flashed red. Damage reports scrolled endlessly. He barked orders no one followed, screamed names of officers already unconscious or captured. He spun as a hiss sounded behind him. Madison stepped through the blast door, flanked by her strike team. Her expression was neutral, but her eyes held a fire that demanded reckoning. You, Craxon spat. You are the architects of this atrocity. No, Madison replied evenly, leveling her stolen rifle. You are. We're just the invoice. She fired once. Not at him, at the control panel. The bridge sealed shut, locking them all inside with the consequences. The Admiral backed into the command podium. You don't understand. This is a diplomatic disaster. An act of aggression against the entire Empire. Madison tilted her head. Y'all kidnapped our women and expected a fruit basket in return. You don't know humans very well, do you? I underestimated your kind, yes, but this is savagery. You call it savagery, she said, advancing. We call it Tuesday. Craxon raised his claws. There is still time to negotiate, terms can be reached. Madison's eyes softened slightly. Here's your first term, evacuate your personnel. Every life you save now? That's yours to claim. And the second? Stop talking. With a wave of her hand, the team disabled the bridge's defensive protocols. On her signal, the data purge began. Files, secrets, fleet locations, all transmitted to the Gravedigger in seconds. The Empire's control network crumbled. Back on the Earthship, Briggs received the intel dump and whistled low. Well damn. They even packed it in folders for us. Colonel Mares looked up. Enemy reinforcements in position. Broadcast the feed. The gravedigger activated its broad-spectrum projector. Every ship in the vicinity, imperial or otherwise, was suddenly tuned into a live stream of their flagship being dismantled from within. On screen, humans moved with terrifying unity, control, and creativity. Tactical overlay graphics showed just how deeply the infiltration had reached. Alien commanders across the reinforcements hesitated. Some ordered a full retreat. Others, paralyzed by disbelief, waited for orders that would never come. Then came the speech. General Briggs stepped into view of the stream, posture relaxed, voice clear and confident. To the Empire and anyone else watchin', I want to be real clear. We didn't want this. We didn't start it. Y'all kicked in our door, snatched our sisters and wives and daughters, and thought we'd roll over and cry. But see, that ain't how we're wired. He walked as he spoke, the bridge of the gravedigger behind him a model of quiet efficiency. You thought humans were disorganized, emotional, loud. You're not wrong. We're all those things. But we're also vengeful, strategic. And when pushed hard enough, we unify. Not 'cause we like each other, but 'cause we like winning. His voice dropped. You took 42 women. In doing so, you gave us reason, purpose and blood debt. And we don't forget those. The feed switched again, now showing alien prisoners being treated, wounded enemies receiving medical attention from the very humans who disabled them. We don't need to conquer you. We just needed you to remember we ain't prey. And from now on, you treat humans with respect. Or next time, we won't bring medics. The feed ended. Across the Empire, silence reigned. Then panic. Then the quiet, sick realization of what had just happened. Ossuary Prime, the symbol of unity and dominance, now floated in pieces. Madison stood in the remains of the bridge, arms folded as human recovery teams arrived behind her. Lisa slapped a sticker that read "Oops" on the ruined command console. Extraction complete, Priya reported, holding up the final drive. Madison tapped her comm. General, we're done here. Copy that, Briggs replied. Time to come home. The humans disappeared as quickly as they had arrived. No lingering threats. No ultimatums. Just the wreckage of pride and the echoes of tactical brilliance. As Ossuary Prime drifted into forced evacuation, Admiral Craxon sat slumped among the ruins of his empire's arrogance. Around him, silence and smoke. No guards. No bridge crew. Just a single sticky note left behind on the command podium. It read, "Next time, send flowers instead." And signed, in flawless penmanship, Humanity. The diplomatic tribunal was held in orbit above the neutral moon of Juraxis, chosen for its picturesque silver rings, and, more practically, its zero chance of human troops being anywhere near it. The surviving members of the Galactic Council arrived with eyes wide and voices lowered, all trying to avoid being the one who said the wrong thing first. The last time someone had spoken too confidently, Earth had blacked out 6 comm satellites and sent back a single emoji, a smiley face with sunglasses. In the center of the ring-shaped amphitheater sat a chair long untouched by humans. Today, that chair was occupied. General Nathan Briggs leaned back like he owned the room. A fresh coffee cup steamed beside him. Real coffee, not synthesized. The man hadn't said a word yet, and still, he held the attention of every creature with more than one neuron. He looked as relaxed as a man watching a Sunday ball game, which made his presence infinitely more unsettling. On the far side, High Admiral Craxon sat bruised, bandaged, and visibly smaller. His once pristine ceremonial armor was cracked at the shoulder, and a fine tremor ran through one of his tendrils. He had not looked up since entering the chamber. Y.R.R. Tack presided in silence, his ancient eyes scanning the crowd with a depth that unsettled even the more telepathic species. Shun Velk sat beside him, twitching antennae now half-plucked from stress. He had aged since the debacle. Or perhaps, like many who had survived a brush with humanity, he simply carried the weight of understanding. The tribunal's primary objective was supposed to be reparations and repartee, how best to clean up a galactic incident without igniting further conflict. But the room was heavy with a different weight. Fear wrapped in curiosity, curiosity dipped in awe. Briggs finally stood. The sound of his boots echoed far louder than it should have. He took his time. "Well now," he said, drawing the syllables out like smoke. "I reckon we've had ourselves quite the rodeo." No one spoke. Even the translators paused, as if unsure whether the phrase was a threat or an anecdote. "I'll get straight to it. Y'all took our women. Thought they'd be easy to poke, prod and study. What you got was 42 trained professionals with more dangerous hobbies than half your militaries. And I don't mean trained like your officers who graduate with medals and never see a scrap of dirt. I mean trained like we don't blink when we snap your neck kind of trained." A Kalari delegate tried to speak, but immediately thought better of it. Briggs continued. "You thought Earth was a wilderness. A fluke. A primitive dirtball that got lucky. But it wasn't luck. It was restraint. We kept quiet because we were still deciding whether y'all were worth the trouble." His eyes swept the crowd, gauging reactions. No one looked directly at him. "But you didn't ask. You took. And in doing so, you got a proper introduction to what happens when humanity decides we're done asking nicely." He reached down and tapped a holographic control. A projection unfurled above the chamber, footage from the operation. Not of the battles. Not the explosions. But of humans tending to the injured. Helping alien medics. Sharing food. Laughing with former enemies. Then the switch flipped again, and the same humans stormed corridors, outmaneuvering foes, disarming bombs, smiling through carnage. Now I know some of y'all got questions. You want to know if we're gonna keep pushing. If Earth is gonna come storming through your star systems, carving out some shiny new empire. But the truth is simpler. He let the silence hang just long enough. We don't want your empire. Some audible exhales followed. But, he added, voice cold now, we will never be underestimated again. Craxon finally looked up. Then what is it you want, General? Briggs met his gaze without hesitation. A seat at the table. A say in what's decided. Not as some junior partner or charity case. As equals. Schunvelk tilted his head. Is that all? Briggs smiled. Nah. We want lifetime access to your coffee beans, diplomatic immunity for Lisa, because she's a menace and we can't stop her, and full rights to the Juraxis moon for our species' mental health retreats. Oh, and you're gonna start teaching sarcasm recognition as part of your military officer training. Schunvelk blinked slowly. You're serious? Deadly. There was a pause and then, surprisingly, a soft ripple of laughter from some corners of the council. A few delegates relaxed. The sheer absurdity of it grounded them again in the fact that humans were still, in spite of it all, human. Briggs turned to Craxon. Now, as for you, Admiral. You got a choice. Public apology. Full responsibility. And a commitment to step down from your command. Craxon's gills flared. You ask too much. Briggs stepped closer. Then you don't know humans yet. We could have left Ossuary Prime floating wreckage. We could have left your fleet scattered. We didn't. We made our point and offered you a door out. Craxon bristled. To humiliate me? To save you, Briggs replied, voice steady. You live. Your crew lives. But only if you speak the words. All eyes turned to the Admiral. Craxon rose slowly. It hurt. Physically. Culturally. Ego was a fragile thing in his species, and this moment would scar 1,000 textbooks. But he understood now, perhaps too late, that pride was the last shield before extinction. He turned to the assembled council. I accept full responsibility. For the unauthorized capture of Earth civilians. For the underestimation of their people. For the consequences we endured. And I resign my command. A hush fell, deep and vast. YRR Tack nodded slowly. So recorded. Briggs tapped a final key, and the feed ended. The footage of Earth's wrath was secured, archived, and encrypted with a kill switch. A final gesture of trust. Later that evening, aboard the Gravedigger, the command deck felt unusually relaxed. Colonel Mares sipped a glass of something vaguely alcoholic as she watched Earth's fleet begin its slow return home. Lisa had stolen the Admiral's chair again, and was currently trying to teach it to swivel more satisfyingly. You know, Mares said, we could have taken more. Left a few ships burning. Made the message louder. Briggs shook his head. Loud ain't always lasting. They'll remember us more because we stopped. They're scared. Good. He watched as the stars shifted beyond the viewport, the light bending gently around the edges of their stealth field. Then he smiled. They're scared because we smiled first. Lisa, now hanging upside down from the chair, pointed at him. That better be the title of your memoir. Mares chuckled. We should have taken bets on which alien would wet their robes first. Still time, Lisa said, flipping off the chair with a somersault and catching her own discarded energy blade in midair. There's a Harkill diplomat who still hasn't blinked since Madison glared at him. Briggs didn't answer. He was watching Earth, now rising on the navigation screen like an old friend you hadn't seen in years. Calm. Quiet. But alive with the quiet danger of a planet that had seen war, mastered peace, and would never again be misjudged. The door slid open behind them. Madison stepped in, cleaned up, calm, but unmistakably dangerous in posture. She nodded to the others and approached Briggs. It's done, she said simply. He raised an eyebrow. And? They'll teach our names in their academies. Not just ours, every human. The scientists. The soldiers. The ones they called prisoners. You left them something, didn't you? Of course, she said. I'm petty. Besides, it's not a real diplomatic victory until someone finds glitter in their ventilation system. Lisa saluted mockingly. To petty victories and tactical glitter. They clinked cups and toasted under the unblinking stars. On the Galactic Council's internal network, a message was already circulating. A warning, a lesson, a proverb born of panic and grudging respect. It would be translated into a dozen languages, adapted into song, and etched into memory across generations. Never touch Earth's women. Not because they were fragile, but because someone would come for them. And what would follow would not be war. It would be wrath. Wrapped in politeness. Delivered with a smile. And sealed in blood and laughter.